Tonight, a rift with Russia. President Obama calls off a summit with President Putin, payback for giving asylum to NSA leaker Edward Snowden. Major Garrett on the strained relations. U.S. drones take out more suspected terrorists in Yemen as the government there claims it has stopped planned attacks by al-Qaeda. Bob Orr has the latest. Cyclospora makes still more Americans sick. Dr. John LaPook reports the outbreak has exposed a gap in the technology needed to trace the source of dangerous diseases. And Anthony Mason with a man who had the right stuff to chronicle the civil rights movement.
I was skinny, I was quick, I was fast. The cops couldn't catch me.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. Scott is on assignment. I'm Norah O'Donnell. It's not a return to the Cold War, but there is a distinct chill tonight in relations between the United States and Russia. President Obama today scrapped plans for a one-on-one meeting with President Putin in Moscow next month. The White House cited a lack of progress on critical issues. But the last straw was Putin's decision to give temporary asylum to Edward Snowden, the NSA leaker. And it represents the latest failure in Mr. Obama's long-stated goal of rebooting U.S.-Russian relations. Major Garrett is at the White House. Major?
Nor before killing the summit, President Obama asked the State Department and Defense Department if anything could be achieved with President Putin on arms control, missile defense, Syria, or human rights. Across the board, the answer came back, no. As one top presidential advisor told us, nothing added up, and we weren't going to have a summit for the sake of appearances. President Obama did not announce his intention to cancel the summit on The Tonight Show, but he left plenty of hints.
There have been times where they slip back into Cold War thinking and a Cold War mentality. And what I consistently say to them and what I say to President Putin is that's the past. And we've got to think about the future, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to cooperate more effectively than we do.
Putin's return to power has ended cooperation on nuclear arms reduction and has reignited hostilities over a U.S.-backed ballistic missile defense system in Europe. This has reversed the temporary progress achieved after then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton hit a literal reset button with Russia in 2009. Putin was out of office. A White House official said the reset died the day Putin regained power. The chill between President Obama and his Russian counterpart grew coldest over Edward Snowden. The president personally lobbied Putin to expel Snowden to the U.S. to face felony charges for leaking classified documents.
I was disappointed because even though we don't have an extradition treaty with them, traditionally we have tried to respect if there's a lawbreaker or an alleged lawbreaker in their country. We evaluate it. And we try to work with them. They didn't do that with us, and in some ways it's reflective of some underlying challenges that we've had with Russia lately.
The State Department informed the Russians before the president announced that the summit had been canceled. Mr. Obama will attend a global economic conference early next month in St. Petersburg, Russia. Nora, there are no plans for an Obama-Putin meeting there either.
Major, thank you. And now to the terror threat that led to the closing of 19 U.S. embassies and consulates this week and an alert for Americans traveling overseas this month. The U.S. struck again today at suspected terrorists in Yemen. Homeland Security correspondent Bob Orr is in Washington following that story. Bob.
Nora, the threat remains tonight, and officials still fear that an al-Qaeda attack on some Western target could happen. But both the U.S. and Yemeni governments today turned up pressure on al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. In Yemen's capital of Sana'a, soldiers are stopping vehicles and frisking passengers, looking for suicide bombers. It's part of a security crackdown, which Yemeni officials say has stopped attacks inside the country aimed at oil and gas operations. Authorities say al-Qaeda terrorists had planned to attack strategic coastal energy terminals with the goal of taking hostages and killing foreign workers. That plan may have been inspired by a January attack in Algeria, in which dozens of workers were killed when Islamist militants stormed a gas plant. While the Yemeni government claimed it had foiled the latest plot, there were no reports of any arrests. And U.S. intelligence sources cautioned the larger threat, which has closed down 19 U.S. embassies and consulates, is not over. Intelligence based on intercepted terrorist communications suggest attacks may reach well beyond Yemen. So the U.S. again today went after AQAP fighters. For the 5th time in 2 weeks, U.S. drones fired on militants. 7 suspected operatives riding in 2 cars were killed by a barrage of missiles. While no terror leaders were hit, officials hope the drone surge will put AQAP back on its heels. Now, it's important to remember there is no expiration date for this terror scare. Frankly, unless operatives are captured or analysts turn up some kind of evidence that al-Qaeda is changing its mind, the threat, Norah, will be open-ended.
And Bob, what about the cooperation between the U.S. and Yemeni governments?
Well, it's pretty good. There's broad cooperation on multiple fronts. U.S., for example, sharing intelligence, American military advisors, also consulting with security forces there. But perhaps most importantly, Norah, officials say the leadership of Yemen now has given a green light for those stepped-up U.S. drone operations. All of that, of course, with the aim of defeating a common enemy, AQAP.
Bob Orr, thank you. On day 2 of Major Nidal Hassan's murder trial, one of his legal advisors told the judge he believed Hassan wants the death penalty. Hassan is charged with 13 counts of premeditated murder and 32 of attempted murder in the 2009 Fort Hood massacre. Hassan, who is acting as his own attorney, admitted in opening statements that he is the shooter. His advisor asked the judge for permission to take over the case or minimize his role, so Hassan cannot ask for advice on a strategy the advisor opposes. In Cleveland, the house where Ariel Castro raped and tortured 3 women for a decade was demolished today in less than half an hour. The teardown was part of the plea deal that spared Castro a possible death sentence. Instead, he is going to serve life in prison. Among those watching was one of his victims, Michelle Knight, who released yellow balloons in memory of missing children. In Egypt, a new showdown appears inevitable between the military and supporters of the ousted president Mohamed Morsi. Egypt's interim leaders today rejected foreign efforts to find a peaceful solution, including a personal appeal by Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham. Clarissa Ward is in Cairo. Clarissa, so where do we go from here?
Good evening, Norah. That's right. Despite their best efforts, Senators McCain and Graham left here empty-handed. If anything, their visit appears to have backfired, with many Egyptians condemning what they called unacceptable interference into Egyptian domestic affairs. Now, today, the Egyptian presidency reiterated its commitment to go in and clear out those protest camps where thousands of supporters of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi have been camped out for more than a month. So the question really is no longer if it will happen, but when it will happen. Tonight is the final night of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, and the next few days here are celebrations. So few people believe that security forces will go in during the next few days. But the Muslim Brotherhood has called for protests across the country. And of course, the concern here is always that whenever you have people on the streets, there's always the possibility of violence.
Clarissa Ward, thank you. In Kenya, a fire today at the airport in Nairobi started out small but kept on growing because the first fire trucks didn't arrive for at least an hour. The fire destroyed the international arrivals hall, but no one was seriously injured. This is the 15th anniversary of the al-Qaeda bombings at U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, but investigators say there is no sign terrorism was behind the fire. We got a first-hand account today of what happened June 30th when 19 hotshot firefighters were killed battling a wildfire near Yarnell, Arizona. Carter Evans has the story the lone survivor is telling.
21-year-old Brendan McDonough was the lookout the day the fire swept over his team. This video interview was shot by the Daily Courier newspaper in Prescott, Arizona.
My captain had reached me on the radio saying that we're going to expect 180-degree wind shift, and that we could expect gusts up to 50 to 60 miles per hour. And once I heard that, I knew the fire was going to change rapidly, and he understood that too. As I look back to see how they're doing, I turn around and I could already see that the wind had shifted. I turn around and I look back at the fire, and I can just see just the smoke building. It's starting to gain a lot of potential to move towards us.
McDonough had to move from the fire, being pushed by gusting winds.
I relayed this information back to my captain, and he told me, no, I can see what's going on, Brennan. Just make sure you're safe, make sure everything's good for you.
Radio traffic made it clear his friends were trapped and deploying their fire shelters as a desperate move to protect themselves from the flames.
That was the last time that I heard my superintendent's voice. I was crushed mentally and emotionally. I didn't know what to do. I mean, everyone on that fire wanted to do everything they could, and they did. It was just a horrible freak accident.
McDonough also said he hopes the community will continue to support the families of the fallen hotshots. And to that end, Norah, Arizona lawmakers are now preparing a bill that would give lifetime benefits to the families of the 13 hotshots who were initially denied coverage because they were not full-time employees.
Carter Evans, thank you. And George W. Bush was released from a Dallas hospital today, and his spokesman says the former president is doing great. Doctors inserted a stent yesterday in an artery near his heart to clear a blockage. Mr. Bush is 67 years old. He is expected to resume a normal schedule tomorrow. A woman helps cancer research without even knowing it. Why researchers are about to dig up the grounds of a former reform school. And $2 and lots of dreams of a huge lottery jackpot when the CBS Evening News continues. The governor of Florida and his cabinet have given the go-ahead for researchers to begin a grim project. They'll be digging up the grounds of a former reform school in the Panhandle, searching for the remains of boys who were sent to the school between 1900 and the 1950s. Manuel Bojorquez has the story.
These crosses are a modest tribute to the 96 boys who died in state custody at the Arthur G. Dozier Reform School.
There's always been a part missing. My brother.
Richard Varnadoe's 13-year-old brother Thomas was sent to Dozier in 1934. He died a month later.
What was that like for your family?
Devastating. Devastating. It's the only way I know to explain it.
How did you and your family find out that Thomas was dead?
Send us a letter.
What did the letter say?
That he was dead and he was already buried.
Former students have long claimed beatings were routine at Dozier. Some even suggested murder.
We found 20 or so individuals that actually died within the first 3 months of arriving here. So maybe this.
Last year, anthropologist Aaron Kimmerly's team from the University of South Florida used radar and soil analysis to discover 50 unmarked graves.
There are a number of boys who ran away from the school whose death certificates indicate that they died traumatic deaths. One was shot, one had blunt trauma to the head.
Excavations begin later this month. Investigators will use DNA from living relatives to identify remains.
To tell the story of the children, how they lived and how they died. And I think that's a good reflection of who we as society were when they were in the care of the state and who we are today by investigating what happened to them.
Richard Varnadoe just wants to bring his brother home.
What would that be like for you?
It'd probably be emotional. But I'd be overjoyed at finding him.
Give him a proper goodbye?
A proper burial and a proper goodbye.
One better than this unmarked plot, nearly lost to overgrown trees and time. Manuel Bojorquez, CBS News, Marianna, Florida.
Henrietta Lacks played a vital role in medical research, though she never knew it. 6 decades ago, as she was dying of cervical cancer, doctors in Baltimore removed some of her cancer cells. They became the first human cells grown indefinitely in a lab, leading to vaccines and cancer treatments. Well, the Lacks family wasn't told for 25 years. Today, her survivors reached an agreement with the National Institutes of Health. They will now have a say in how her cells are used in future research. Despite all the medical advances, the U.S. doesn't have the latest technology to trace the source of serious illnesses. That's next. The outbreak of cyclospora continues to spread. It's a parasite that causes stomach illness. 467 cases have been reported in 16 states, more than half in Iowa and Nebraska. The cases in those two states were traced to tainted salad from Mexico. But the search for the source in the other states has been hampered by a lack of the latest technology. Dr. John LaPook spoke with the head of the CDC.
How do you know that the parasite that's in Iowa and Nebraska is the same that's in the other states?
We don't know that all of the parasites are the same. Unless we can really track it down and understand it better, we can't figure out where it's coming from, and we may not be able to prevent it as well as we could otherwise.
Dr. Thomas Frieden, director of the Centers for Disease Control, says the technology to do that exists, but the agency doesn't have it. Frieden says the CDC needs equipment that would allow investigators to identify a microorganism's genetic makeup, or genome.
We need to get to the next generation of disease detective work. It used to take months to be able to sequence just a part of a microbe's genome. Now, a piece of equipment like this can sequence a genome in hours. Outbreaks in hospitals of severely resistant organisms. We might identify environmental sources, beds or cooling systems, which have that microbe on it, and we're the source.
The problem hampered the CDC's investigation of the cholera outbreak in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake. The agency was forced to send its samples to Canada for testing.
We were able to sequence the genome, but to actually interpret it, we had to send that out of the country to be done. And I never want to have to do that again as CDC director.
Potentially, what does the lack of this new technology mean in the future if, say, there was a more severe outbreak?
Not being able to analyze the genomic sequence of a microbe in real time is like trying to solve a crime without using fingerprints.
To fingerprint organisms using their genetic code, the CDC has requested $40 million from Congress for a combination of hardware and software.
That's quite a price tag. Dr. John LaPook, thank you. And if there were crowds at your gas station or convenience store today, this may be why. Tonight's Powerball jackpot is at least $425 million, the fourth largest in U.S. history. Folks lined up to buy tickets in West Virginia and 42 other states where Powerball is played. The odds of winning the top prize are 1 in 175 million. These photographs document the struggle for civil rights in America. The man who snapped them tells us his story next. The White House announced today that President Obama will mark the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington later this month with an address from the Lincoln Memorial, where Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech. Many of the images we have of the civil rights movement were captured by the man you're about to meet. In our final report tonight from Anthony Mason.
The South was simmering when Bruce Davidson went there in 1961 as a young photographer out of New York.
Did you know what you were getting into?
No, I didn't know. I suddenly felt a little scared when the soldiers had fixed bayonets and live ammunition, and the police, everyone was hostile.
In Alabama, he rode the bus with the Freedom Riders as they drove across the South to protest segregation. In Birmingham, he photographed two white officers restraining a black woman.
You can see the police twisting her arm.
In front of a movie theater playing Damn the Defiant.
It was important to me to stay close.
Yeah. He snapped this picture of a woman waiting in a paddy wagon.
It's just the dignity of this woman being arrested.
Nearby, a policeman holds a confiscated sign reading, "Khrushchev can eat here, why can't we?"
I was skinny, I was quick, I was fast. The cops couldn't catch me.
Did they try to stop you?
Oh yeah, and once they kicked me out of town. They said, "You're an agitator, or you're a communist."
Davidson's civil rights photographs are being shown this summer at the Howard Greenberg Gallery in New York. At 79, he's now one of the country's most acclaimed photographers. In the 60s, he was earning his living on fashion shoots.
You had a contract with Vogue.
Yeah.
But he gave it up to cover the civil rights movement.
I needed to feel that what I was doing was worth it.
Davidson spent 4 years in the South.
I don't shoot and run. I very often go back to my subjects.
He wanted to get close, but not too close.
I stayed away from meeting Dr. King. Every photographer in the world wanted to be his best friend.
Why did you stay away from him?
I wanted to see who he really was and what was happening to him.
How many pictures did you take in the South?
Probably 5,000.
Really?
His pictures gave people a new understanding of what was happening. They were a revelation, even to him.
So you changed down there?
I changed, yeah, definitely.
And Bruce Davidson's photographs would change how we saw our own country. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. For Scott Pelley, I'm Norah O'Donnell. Thanks for watching. I'll see you first thing tomorrow on CBS This Morning. Good night.